You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hello, this is Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There are ladies, things that makes it official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show. Over 16 years and 24 episodes, we're bringing you all the most amazing guests, stories, journeys, lessons of life that you can share with your family and friends. So be sure to refer them. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, Facebook.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTokity. Today we have an amazing young man we're going to be talking to today about his entrepreneur founding journey and what he's built and how he's managing and leading it and all that good stuff. William Ho joins us on the show. He's the director, president, CEO, and co-founder of his company called Innate Bio. Innate Bio. I think you just have to say it really quickly, maybe. He has worked in the biotechnology industry for nearly 24 years. Prior to the founding of Innate Bio, from 2014 to 2017, he was the founder and managing partner at Aleph Point Capital. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. A private healthcare investment fund. Prior to that, he was at New Leaf Venture Partners, and a leading healthcare venture capitalist firm, and he launched and managed the public investment and crossover portfolio. Served as its public investment director from 2010 to 2014. Welcome to the show, William. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Thanks for coming. We really appreciate it. Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to know you guys better on the internet?
Sorry, I apologize. I couldn't hear you. Broke up for a second. Can you say that again?
Give us your .coms, wherever people can find you on the interweb. Your websites.
Yeah. Our website is www.innatebio.com. That's IN8bio.com.
There you go. So give us a 30,000 overview of what you do there.
Yeah, Innate Bio is a biotech company that was founded about a decade ago. It's based on the technology from my scientific co-founder and today Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. Lawrence Lamb. He's an expert in the field of gamma delta T cells. Gamma delta T cells are a subset of our immune system. They're one of the white blood cells that are found inside our bodies that go out and hunt for cells that are pathogenic or are damaged or are cancerous, and they try to eliminate all of them to prevent disease.
Really?
So we're the leading company today leading this technology. Dr. Lamb's been working with these cells for 30 years.
I've got some of my coffee right now. I have it every morning. I sprinkle some in there. And so this company, the hope is to, get these, to be able to maybe activate this technology more and kill cancer?
The hope is to use these cells to go hunt any residual cancer cells or to treat pathogenical blood cells that might result in autoimmune diseases in some cases. Look, ultimately, we can treat cancers, we can shrink cancers, but the problem is as we treat these tumors, you're training the tumors to become stronger and stronger. There's always residual tumor cells, whether they're microscopic and they can't be seen, or they're resistant to the current therapies. All it ultimately takes is one cell that doubles, and over time, patients eventually relapse or progress.
Yeah.
Our goal is, can we use these cells to hunt out the residual cells? Because if we can eliminate them, what we call achieving cancer zero, then we can prevent patients from relapsing.
Wow.
Or progressing.
I mean, that's what the doctors have always told me, like with my dogs that have cancer. They're like, Chris, even if we beat it, it will come back and it'll come back stronger. And so is that why? They have that resistance?
Absolutely. It's like fighting, right? The more you fight, the more you train, the stronger you get. The more different therapies we apply to different cancers, you're selecting for tumor cells that get stronger and stronger. after a couple lines of therapy, it becomes very difficult to beat. And so our goal is to attack the tumors when they're at their weakest early on to try to ultimately eliminate them all.
Yeah, because I'm no scientist, so don't quote me, folks. But my understanding is once cells, that's where cancer forms. Cells get damaged or misaligned or malformed, or some sort of issue with them. They just go out drinking on Friday nights and they partied way too hard. That's basically it, folks. And they're done. They're it's time to move on. So, and is that correct? Am I kind of
Well, we get damaged. Our cells are damaged every single day. I'm in New York City. When I go outside in the sunshine, we get damaged. When we go drinking, bourbons on Friday night, you get damage from the alcohol. Everything in our lives drives DNA damage. The fact is, we have powerful biology inside our bodies that help try to fix that damage. It's called the DNA damage response pathway.
Okay.
And so our bodies, they learn to fix it. They either fix the damage, they drive the cells that have damage to commit suicide, or our immune systems identify those cells and eat them up and to eliminate them.
There you go. Yeah, eat the bad cells, eh? And can you get this to eat some fat too? I need these sentries to go hunt down my fat cells and eat them too. That would be great if we could work that out. But you guys have something called the Deltex platform. Tell us about what that is and what that includes.
Yeah, Deltex is just the trade name we've given to our technology and our platform. It encompasses all of our know-how, our capabilities to manipulate, expand, and grow these gamma delta T cells. They're powerful cells that have been found to be associated with better survival when they are present in your bodies at higher levels.
Are they usually present in our body at higher levels when we're young and maybe they fade away when we get old?
In actuality, when a person is born, they're the first cells that actually exist.
Really?
Yeah. These cells are pretty unique in that they form a major role on discriminating what is safe and should be left alone versus what is dangerous and should be killed. Our bodies, our immune systems, or our white blood cells consists of two major components. One, the early attackers, what we call innate, which is how we came up with the company name innate. It's a play on the innate immune cells. And the adaptive, or the long-term memory. The fact is, when you're born, you have no memory. You haven't seen any infections. You haven't built any immune response. And so these gamma deltas, when an infant is first born, they encompass a major part of our immune system.
Wow. And so do they fade as we grow older, or is that why we start breaking down when we get old?
I think, unfortunately, as all of us get older, all of our immune cells get weaker and weaker. We find that we do have less of them. They are less powerful. They're not as strong as we get older. Unfortunately, as we've built our Deltex platform, the one predictor of outcomes and the strength of the cells ultimately is the age of the patient or of the donor. A 20-year-old cells are much more potent than that of a 60, 70, or 80-year-old.
Note to self: start eating 20-year-olds for breakfast. And this just in, folks: don't grow old, according to the newest science.
I'm fighting it every step of the way.
What is that? Don't go into that good night without a fight, something like that. So you guys, and you guys also work with drug resistance immunotherapy. So you guys are coming up with technology that can deal with drug resistant stuff.
Well, the fact is, as we treat for over 80 to 90 years, the standard of care for most cancer indications is some combination of surgical resection followed by chemotherapy and radiation. the surgeon can remove the bulk of a tumor with his or her knife.
Uh-huh.
And then when we treat with chemo, yeah, we can shrink the tumor, but the problem is chemotherapy harms our own immune cells. It kills our immune
kills
cells.
real cells. Yeah.
Patrick Soon-Shiong, who is one of the most successful entrepreneurs in biotech, has recently been talking about his therapy that they're developing called BioShield, where they're trying to protect the immune cells.
Put a condom over the immune cells.
That's more of what we're trying to do. He's trying to grow more. I guess what we try to do is...
You can get Trojan as your sponsor or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
What we've done is we've actually protected our immune cells from being killed by the chemotherapy. And the way we do that is we found the tumor's own resistance mechanism to the chemotherapies, and we hijacked it. We genetically engineer it directly into our immune cells so that they'll survive combined dosing. So we protect them so that they remain functional, and they can go out and seek any cells that are left through the chemotherapy.
I have this when you say seek the cells, I think of those the movie The Matrix. You know, those big octopus things that would go hunt you down and kill you. That'd be kind of cool. So is there any way can I get this in pill form, these gamma things? And
no, they're cells, so we actually have to take them out of the blood of individuals or from donors, and we manipulate them, we genetically engineer them and grow them up so that you have more soldiers.
All right, note to self, go back to eating 20-year-olds. There you go. Jeffrey Dahmer. Don't do that, folks. It's just a joke. Don't start a cult over it. So yeah, I mean, this is really interesting. So tell us about yourself. How did you found this company, and what were some of your entrepreneurial influences as you were growing up? What got you into this sort of fields?
You know, I actually never wanted to be a CEO nor an entrepreneur. I found myself in this position somewhat by accident. I went to college. I'm originally Canadian, American now. Went to college in Canada, studied biochemistry, didn't know what I wanted to do, ended up getting an MBA, and then coming to New York City and working on Wall Street. I spent 17 years on Wall Street. I started my career in investment banking. I was eventually an equity research analyst, was the lead biotech analyst for Bank of America, was recruited to investment fund, one of the leading healthcare VC funds at the time, and started running their public portfolio and late stage private, what today they call crossovers, ran that for 4 years. In 2014, I decided to start an investment fund, now defunct. Quite frankly, I couldn't raise any money. Nobody believed in our thesis. At that time, I was working with someone.
Oh, wow.
And we had built algorithms. At the time, we were scraping what we called unstructured data sets. So we can scrape websites. And we're using algorithms and what we called natural language processing to look for patterns that could be used for investing. And funny thing, 2014, everybody said, "Are you crazy? You can't scrape websites and use algorithms to process and look for data." And a little bit ahead of our time, too early. But through those processes, I was looking for technology that could take what came out, what was originally known as chimeric antigen receptor T cells, or CAR T. CAR T, now it's been about 15 years. In 2014, the technology was quite nascent. We could take blood out of individuals, genetically engineer the white blood cells to target cancer specifically, and then send them back in through an infusion to hunt down tumor cells. Worked wonderfully in the blood cancers. Today, 15 years later, some of the earliest patients remain alive and in remission. And I was trying to figure out, how do you go from the leukemias and lymphomas to the solid tumors?
Yeah.
The pancreatic cancer, liver cancer, lung cancer, brain cancer. And I somewhat fortuitously met my scientific founder because he got stuck in New York City in a snowstorm.
Mm.
So Dr.
Wow.
Lamb had
In a
worked
snowstorm? You
these.
guys met in a snowstorm?
We met in a snowstorm. It was what was January 21st, 2015. The East Coast was pounded by snowstorms. Boston had 7-foot snowdrift.
Wow.
And in one of those storms, one of his colleagues that I had met at a conference called me and said, "Hey, the guy I told you about, he's in New York City. His flight got canceled. The city is shut down. Would you like to meet him?" So I said, "Sure, why not?" And I took him
Oh,
out for lunch.
that is awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome sauce. What away? And so right away, did you guys know you come up with
No,
some
I
ideas
spent,
or just
we spent 3 hours at a restaurant just talking about his life's work. And I thought, who is this crazy guy with a Southern accent out of Alabama? And what's he talking about? I'd never even heard of these cells, the gamma delta T cells that we work on today.
yeah.
But I went home and started pulling papers and started reading, calling him, emailing him, asking him questions. And 3 months later, I looked at myself and said, "Shit, I think this works."
Ah.
I said, "What are you doing with it?" He said, "I don't know." At the time, Dr. Lamb was a professor of medicine at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And he was a director of the GMP manufacturing facility and a clinical immunologist. And I decided to license the technology and launch the company. It's been
Ah.
almost 10 years.
There you go. There you go. What a crazy world. So what's the future hold? Does AI have a future impact here that can help you guys do what you guys are doing there?
I think we're still trying to figure out how to use AI.
Yeah.
We use AI for the day to day, a lot of day to day items for diligence and research. We discovered you can get in 30 seconds what used to take 2 months of consulting work and get a decent answer. But we're still trying to figure out how to use it towards drug development, understanding biology, and getting our clinical trials to move faster.
There you go. There you go. This should be amazing stuff if we can get it technology. There's so many people chasing this. I'm hoping, somebody gets it or a bunch of people get it right.
There's the challenge if you to go back to the when I started the fund that was trying to be based on what today I guess could be called AI. On the tech side, there's always the challenge of data and how clean is the data, right? There's an old mantra: garbage in, garbage out.
Mhm.
And so, how do you clean the data? How do you make sure your data is robust? And the challenge quite often is in medicine and in biotechnology, we deal with humans and all the vagaries and variability that occurs with people.
Yeah.
You design clinical trials where we say we're going to take blood samples, for example, on day 0, 7, 30, 60, 180, 365. Invariably, day 60 is Thanksgiving, and the patient, even if they have cancer, is not coming in, right? They want to spend that time with their family. And so you have variabilities. And those are things we're trying to figure out how to deal with on the biotechnology side.
Yeah. It's too bad we can't come up with some of these gamma T cells that can hunt down stupidity. I've got a whole network over on Twitter that you guys can just make billions off of. If we can hunt down what's the old line from George Carlin? So anyway, anything more we want to talk about before we go out and your companies, what you do it, and how you lead them?
No, look, it's been a tough 5 years in biotech. As I said, we've been doing this for more than 10 years. We're quite proud. We had an oral presentation at the largest oncology conference every single year globally. It's called the American Society of Clinical Oncology. We're one of a handful that were picked for an oral presentation this past June. And we're excited. We have a patient with a grade 4 glioblastoma who's 4 years out and still progression free.
Wow.
So
yeah. So you guys are seeing successful results from the work then?
We believe so. We have 2 main trials, one in leukemia focused on acute myeloid leukemia or AML patients, a horrible disease.
Yeah.
another trial in glioblastoma, both
Yeah.
of them with patients 4 years out having remained in remission.
That would be great too if you could use it in animals, because I lost my dog last year to leukemia, and
Uh,
just it's a horrible thing to deal with. All these things are, it's kind of funny. We don't have these things fixed yet. I think, what was it? It was 2001 Space Odyssey. We were supposed to have all this interesting life. And here it
we
is.
did get iPads.
We did get iPads. So yeah, the styrofoam boxes for the ozone layer. Steal the line from Neil Young's "Keep It Rockin' in the USA." um, what do you try and do as a co-CEO? I think it was. Were you co-CEO or
No,
co-founder? Co-founder.
co-founder.
As a CEO, what sort of style of leadership do you try and utilize, or culture that you try to engender in your company?
I'm a very direct CEO.
Mhm.
I'm one who believes in leading from the front. I think I don't put my team through anything that I'm not willing to do myself.
Mm.
I think I've been in various organizations, from massive international banks, global banks, to
Mhm.
small funds, to small biotech companies.
Mhm.
And I think, you know, people want to be treated fairly.
Ah.
They The worst thing for a culture is when people see others who aren't working so hard,
Mhm.
uh, or are, you know, hiding things but still getting credit for things that they don't do. And so nothing pisses off people more than that. uh, Even working, 50, 60, 70 hours a week doesn't piss people off like that.
Yeah.
They want to be recognized, they want to get the credit, but they want to. I'm direct with my people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's really good. People need to know what the CEO wants, what he stands for, what he's about, and all that good stuff. They don't want to be left in the dark. Does this guy really care about us? Is he what is he really up to? Is he communicating? Do we even know what the fuck he wants? All these things are really important, and a lot of CEOs really need to think about their culture. What sort of advice would you give to upcoming entrepreneurs, up and coming entrepreneurs?
We talked about this before we started a little bit. People often ask me, what's the secret? What's the, what can you tell me? And really, beyond all the skills you may have and all the knowledge,
Hmm.
being an entrepreneur was much harder than I ever expected. Quite frankly, most people would probably not do it, except
Uh-huh.
for ignorance and naivete going into it.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest strength someone could have is probably just grit and ability to suffer, and just persevere. I mean, you started this show.
I
You're
like
an
this.
entrepreneur.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I never shut up, so it just worked for me as a
You,
venue.
I'll
Um,
tell you a story. I had someone came to me. He was a hedge fund manager, someone I had known for years. He was a portfolio manager at one of the big pod shops. And he came to me and said, I have an asset. And can you give me some advice? Can we grab lunch and can you give me some advice? I said, sure, let's go grab lunch and I'll give you some advice. So I take him out to lunch here in Midtown in New York, and we sit down and he goes, okay, what can you tell me? What advice will you give me to start? What should I do to start the company? And I said, go home, sit your wife down, and ask her, is she willing to suffer with me through this? And is she ready not to be a hedge fund manager's wife anymore? And he goes, what are you talking about? No, like, what lawyers do I use? What do I do? I said, look, none of that is going to drive your success, but you
that's
are going
true.
to suffer, and you're going to have to cut back on your expense. She's willing to have a certain lifestyle. Are you willing to cut back on that? And is she going to stick with you through that suffering? Because otherwise, you're either going to no longer be an entrepreneur or you're going to be divorced. And that's quite true for starting a lot of companies.
You know,
right?
it really is. I started my first company when I was 18, and I've owned companies all my life, and I'm always starting new companies. And sadly, with 2008, it wiped out a bunch of my stuff. So my biggest jewel was in my empire was a mortgage company, of all things to have in 2008. Yeah, there's a lot of suffrage. I think
I mean,
I laugh at that, but it might be the most truest statement of entrepreneurialism, the ability to suffer. You know, when we started our companies, we started two multi-million-dollar companies within a year and a half of each other. The first one we started with $2,000. The second one we started with 4,000, and we built those. I mean, they were profitable in 3 months. We built them into multi-million-dollar companies that lasted up to 20 years. If it hadn't been for 2008, probably would have keep been here now. Um, but you know, the start of those companies was a lot of sweat equity. It was 18-hour days, 4 hours of sleep. Thank God we were all we were really young. I told my business partner, I go, you know, if we're going to do this, we got two choices in life. We got two pathways. We can either do this corporate shit we've been doing, and we can work for the man for 40 years and maybe leave with a golden parachute if we get into echelons of management, right? And we were two stupid kids who didn't go to high school or didn't go to college either. So, I said, but I got to tell you, all these people I see like retiring, you know, getting golden parachutes at 40, 50 and going starting the companies, they seem a little bit old and tired. And I'm not sure I'm going to have the energy at 40 and 50 to start my first venture. I go, or we can do it now. Well, we've got all this gumption, all this collagen, and all this ability to lose sleep and live on ramen for fucking 4 days. You know, I think now's the time. And so we did it. And it was a lot of suffrage. It was a lot of sweat equity. It was a lot of sleepless nights and living on coffee and living on the road. Probably didn't take the best of care in our health considering, but you know, back then people weren't worried about health, I guess. And so it was just about the grind. And you know, I mean, my body's paid for it. I mean, it's part of one of the suffrage things. But I think you're right. It's a lot of suffrage, a lot of problem solving. It will grow you in ways that nothing else will, other than maybe being a parent. I think being a parent will change people and have an impact on them more. It might have more of an impact than because I think my friends who have babies, they lose more sleep than I did the first few years of our company. But you know, I mean, so it other than parenting, but I don't think the problem with parenting is it doesn't self-actualize you and self-accountability you as being a CEO of your own company and doing a startup. I've never been a parent, so you can send me emails if you want. But for some of the parents I've seen that have no lack of self accountability, I think I can prove that point. I've seen your children. I've dated your children, and they're awful, especially that Gen Z. You know, it makes you grow up in a lot of ways. I mean, unless you have a lot of money and your daddy gave it to you, and you can just run around and start companies. If you've started them from the ground up and blood, sweat, and tears, you know, there's no one you can turn to. There's you can't half-ass it. You know, the thing about a company is if you fuck around, you're gonna find out and fail. You know, you don't. You know, you can fuck up a kid's head and he's still walking around. I mean, look at me. Anyway,
Look, you could do everything right and still fail.
exactly.
I mean,
True.
I told you about my first entrepreneur venture is a fund. You know, today in 2025, you talk about, you know, AI and scraping websites and using algorithms to look for patterns, and you're like, of course you can fucking do that. In 2014, people looked like, you know, are you crazy? It can't be done.
You're way ahead of your time on that one. Yeah, I think everyone should try it once, but you know, that's why anytime I see one of those lemonade stands or I see Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts selling stuff, they don't do it so much anymore. In fact, I haven't seen one for a while. But usually they'll be out in front of stores and stuff, selling their wares. And I have a habit. I talked about this in my book. I have a habit of if one of these young people will hit me up for money, I'll buy a few boxes of them and tell them, go be an entrepreneur, and try and seed that sort of mindset, because people were good to me when I was young. Not all people were good to me when I was young, selling Boy Scout, was it Scoutorama shit? Um, but it's this is something we need to do. I think we need to teach entrepreneurism in school. At least have a class on it. And they can just call it the class of suffrage.
I think they used to call that Jim.
That's true. That's actually true. Those.
I'll give a little story. When we were early on in the first days, and we were desperate for cash, and I had a massive deadline to raise cash, and because you talked about having kids, so I've got 2 kids. My daughter at that point.
You sold one of the kids for cash?
My daughter was probably 6 months, so I did both. I was doing both around the same time.
Wow.
And my daughter was 6 months, and we're trying to close some money because I was almost out of money. And it's
Did you put up for collateral?
I at one time did put my house up for collateral.
Wow.
My apartment my wife was sideways on the couch with the migraine because we agreed to collateralize our apartment to get cash to get through.
Wow.
But we were trying to close this financing. My wife goes to bed. I'm working on the deal docs. 11 o'clock at night, I'm working with the lawyers. I hear pitter patter, and splat. And I was like, what just happened? I walk around the corner, and my daughter had gotten out of bed. I guess she was a little older, because she was walking, and she was trying to get to the bathroom and vomited all over the floor.
Wow.
And so I took her to the bath, cleaned her up, cleaned the walls off, cleaned the floor off, put her back to bed, and then back to doing deal docs in the middle of the night.
People always ask me, like, why do you have so much time, Chris, for so many projects? I'm like, I don't have a wife and kids. Like, I can get so many. I'm always adventuring and doing stuff and starting new companies, and people are like, how do you have so much time on your hands? And I'm like, I don't have a wife and kids. But that's the challenge. That's just part of the gear. That's part of the suffrage.
Yeah.
Most people have kids, and you guys if you start a company, you're gonna have to balance that out between the two. But it really speaks to, we talked about this on the show, and this has kind of become a theme as of late when we talk about these items, is really it's a job of problem solving. Like, I think they need to rename entrepreneurial and call it problem solver, or that, or chief sufferer. Maybe chief sufferer is good. I'm considering that now.
When I was on Wall Street, someone recently asked me, what do you think about being Wall Street versus being an operator? And I said, when I was on Wall Street, I had no clue what it took to keep the proverbial wheels on the bus just going straight. If most investors knew the shit that goes wrong and how it goes wrong, they'd be terrified, right? Like, you come in one day and you're like, how the fuck did that happen? It's like, well, I just gotta go fix that. That's my job.
Yeah. Bob stuck a tool in the machine, and now it's on fire. That sort of shit where you're just like, really? Like, I needed this today. Yeah. But there you go. So great stories from the entrepreneurial journey. I think I'm going to change my title on my business card to CEO and Chief Sufferer. So at least I can play the victim for a change, or whatever. Anyway, thanks for coming on the show. Give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs.
Yeah, it's www.innatebio.com. That's www.in8bio.com.
There you go. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it, William.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you. And great discussion. Thanks for audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTokity. All the crazy places in it. We can do each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.